Hey there tech heads, welcome back to the channel, and today's video is brought to you by the Ben Shoes. The Ben Shoes offers a wide variety of formal footwear for any and all occasions. Ladies and gentlemen, don't miss out on this opportunity. Get yourself a pair of the Ben Shoes. Treat your feet. Link in the description below. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about a new release from the smartphone company Xiaomi, known as the Xiaomi Mi Note 10. Xiaomi Mi Note 10. So this phone had been making headlines because of its special camera. It has a penta camera setup, it has 5 rear cameras, and the main camera has a 108 megapixel sensor. 108 megapixels on a single camera sensor. Yeah. So taking a look at some of the specs, it has a 5260 milliamp hour battery, which is pretty huge, and it also comes with 30 watt fast charging, which is equally quite impressive. It has a penta camera setup on the back, like I said earlier, with one of them having a 108 megapixel sensor. And this phone actually looks pretty similar to Huawei's P30 Pro, which was released earlier this year. It has similar curved displays. It has an almost identical button placement. It has the same 6.75 inch AMOLED display with the same water drop notch. So Xiaomi took more than a few liberties while designing this phone. They actually copied Huawei's design right down to the T. But I don't think anyone minds because it's actually a very good design for a smartphone. The Huawei P30 Pro, however, was released at 1,000 euros, so it had a starting price of 1,000 euros, while the Xiaomi Mi Note 10 has a starting price of about 550 euros, so it's almost half the price, but it gives you that same premium feeling in the hand. So that's insanely good value for money when it comes to design. Plus, guess what? Xiaomi has a headphone jack.
After party, yeah. Party after party, after party after party, yeah. Party after party, yeah. Party.
Yeah, like I'm just so happy to finally see a headphone jack in 2019. Like it's we missed the jack. Anyway, talking about the design, the camera placement, however, might be a little bit of an issue because while you're holding this device normally in your hand, because all the cameras are placed vertically, when holding the device, your fingers are going to cover one lens and your fingers are going to touch one lens and completely cover another. So I don't think there's any way for you to hold this phone normally without smudging a couple of your camera lenses. And also, when you place the phone flat on the table and you try to type on it, it's going to wobble. Like it's not going to be well balanced on the table because of the camera bump. So that's a pretty minor design flaw, I would say. The device ships with MIUI 11, which has some significant improvements over the previous iteration of MIUI, which was MIUI 10, such as cleaner looking icons. The icons have been refreshed and they look much better now. A native system-wide dark mode, which is really good for AMOLED screens. It helps to save battery. And some other cool features, such as being able to use a standard video as your wallpaper. So whoever has a video that they really like and would like to use as a wallpaper, you can set that, or you can do that now with MIUI 11. But now it's time for us to address the elephant in the room, the moment we've all been waiting for. Drum roll, please. The camera, or cameras, in this case, the 5 cameras that we have on the Xiaomi Mi Note 10. So the Mi Note 10 feels like you're getting a camera with a little bit of phone on it. So it's more like a camera with just some phone features. The 5 camera sensors are, firstly, the main 108 megapixel wide angle sensor. Then we also have a 2x optical zoom sensor. Then we have a 5x optical zoom sensor. Why we have 2 optical zoom sensors, I will explain later in the video. We have an ultra wide camera, which is getting to be pretty standard. on most phones in 2019. And then we also have a macro lens. Now, a macro lens enables you to get very, very close to your subject, like closer than, I think, up to 2 centimeters to your object, to take these really well detailed, really like ultra zoomed pictures that some samples will be shown. So I think it's easier. It would be easier to explain by just looking at the samples. And the high megapixel count of the main sensor, combined with a wide aperture, allows the Mi Note 10 to take phenomenal photos, which are incredibly detailed and have a very, very awesome depth of field. So you could take a normal picture, but it would look like it was taken in portrait mode. There should be an example of that picture. Like, you should see, if you look at this picture here, there was a picture taken of a Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus 5G just using the normal photo mode. But if you look at the depth of field, you can see that it looks like it was taken in portrait mode. It's pretty crazy, actually. So this phone kills in detail. The phone's camera kills details in the photos, like it kills at 100%, like 10 out of 10. Details are going to be very, very sharp, and it allows you to like crop in as much as you want on a picture without losing much of the quality, which is pretty awesome as well. Now, this phenomenal camera quality also extends to videos, because videos tend to look as if they were shot by a professional DSLR camera rather than being shot by a smartphone camera. And although it does have a few issues with dynamic range, like it has less, its dynamic range is a little bit worse than that on which you can find on maybe Samsung's or Apple phones, or maybe even a Pixel, and some color, temperature, and saturation issues. The pictures always turn out to look very, very well detailed and very, very cinematic. So for people who would love, or people who love to just take pictures for social media, like just take a picture and post on Instagram, this might not really be the easiest experience for you. You might want to go with a phone that bumps up the saturation a bit, like Samsung, or that, you know, gives you some very contrasty looking pictures like the Pixel, or just gives you a very well balanced, natural looking color, natural looking photo like from an iPhone. But this camera on the Mi Note 10 would give you very, very detailed pictures. The color, temperature, and high dynamic range can be adjusted if you would spend a few minutes in some photo editing software. So yeah. So the fact that this camera does have some issues with dynamic range and color temperature sometimes in no way detracts from the sheer excellence of its performance. Now, to refer to what I said earlier, why does this phone have two optical zoom sensors, the 2x and the 5x? Well, as we know, we've had some phones come out this year, like the Huawei P30 Pro and the Oppo Reno, that have 5x optical zoom sensors, like these periscope sensors. They allow you to zoom in as much as 50 times into an object while retaining as much detail as possible. And it's awesome. It lets you see way, way, way more than most people's eyes can. You can capture details that are so far away and they still look very, very clear. But as we've come to know, portrait mode pictures tend to look better when using a telephoto lens, but you can't take portrait mode photos using a 5x optical zoom sensor because you would be way too close to the subject. You would have to take at least 10, 15, maybe 20 steps back before you would be able to get this subject, you know, in a reasonable frame. That's why the 2x telephoto sensor is here. The 2x optical zoom sensor is here. For the times where you need to take a portrait mode photo using the telephoto lens, but you don't want it to be too close or too zoomed. So yeah, okay. The macro lens is also pretty great, like I said earlier, because it allows you to capture items, or let's say items that are just mere centimeters away from you, while maintaining focus and capturing as much detail as possible. So yeah, we can see some samples being displayed. Like the macro lens is pretty good because we've had other iterations of macro lenses as well. It's just that they've been at like pretty low megapixel counts, so the photos come out good but not as crispy as you would want. These photos are just as crispy as whatever you'd want. Even at night, the camera remains incredible, and it has a very, very capable night mode, which captures scenes and allows them to look it has a very natural look to it. It doesn't brighten the images as much as Huawei's Nightscape or Google's Nightside, for example, but it does maintain this natural feeling vibe while trying to capture as much detail as possible and give us as little noise or grain as possible. But as we've come to discover, no smartphone is perfect yet, and there definitely has to be some cons with every pro. So first of all, the audio. This smartphone does have a very capable speaker, but it's just one. It's not a stereo speaker setup, so it's definitely not going to be as loud as other phones with stereo speaker setups, and you can accidentally block the bottom firing speaker while consuming content. Also, it has a subpar, just barely average haptic and vibration engine while typing. It doesn't really feel very premium. The haptic and vibrations engine doesn't feel very premium. It ships with 6 gigabytes of RAM and a Snapdragon 730G chip. So the Snapdragon 730G is it's a high mid-range chip. It's geared towards gaming, but you definitely do have to turn some settings down. It's not a flagship chip. Its performance is just barely about half of the performance you'd get from Snapdragon 855. So yeah, it performs normally, or it performs pretty well with normal day-to-day actions, but you should expect the occasional lag or stutter here and there. And there is a significant processing time after taking photos, especially in 108 megapixels, because yeah, it's taking this photo and it's rendering everything in full detail, so there has to be some processing time. And reloading pictures also causes rendering. Yeah. Well, and also when you zoom in on a 70 megapixel picture, for example, a 108 megapixel picture, for example, it will start reloading the picture because it's trying to render the items that you've zoomed in on in full detail as well. Then we also have the standard cuts that come with a mid-range phone. For example, there is no official IP certification, there is no wireless charging, there is no micro SD card slots, and it only comes with, but it comes with 128 gigabytes of storage, so you should be good. But still, when you're taking 108 megapixel photos, one picture could be as large as 70 megabytes, so that storage could get filled up quite quickly, actually. So all in all, it is a good phone with great cameras, but it's just not the most well-rounded phone, or it's just not the best phone. If it had a better chipset, if it had more RAM, if the processing time for pictures was smaller, if it had expandable storage, these things would make the phone a much more appealing offer. But still, it's great value for money, and at the price, we really don't have much to complain about, actually. So thank you guys so much for watching the video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please make sure to smash that like button, turn on notifications if you've not already. Of course, subscribe to see more videos like this. Check out the link in the description to check out the Ben Shoes Instagram page and contact them from there. Also, check out the link in the description to follow Tech PhD's official Instagram page. And yeah, that's it. So I'll catch you guys in the next one.